as you read this title correctly, I'm going to be talking about all my podcast attempts, what I feel like went right about them, what I feel like went wrong about them in this episode of Trenton Talk. So please do like, comment, and subscribe. And this is leading up to Artificial the Show coming out January 2nd. I'm very excited for you to see the hard work I've been putting in, as well as many others on the Artificial team has been putting in. But let's go past that because I'm going to be talking about Artificial the Show later. Just, not not until January. But yeah, let's start out. Let's start off with probably the big one right off the bat. Everyone that's going to know the most. OG Trenton Talks. OG Trenton Talks was originally just a podcast form that was only on like Spotify and all other podcast distributors and was not available on YouTube. It was an audio only based podcast. And nothing went wrong, I feel like, until about season 2 to the tail end of season season 2 to then season 3. I'll get into that. And my mind might be a little bit fuzzy about these events, to be honest. I'll be honest with you right off the bat. So, OG Trenton Talks, if I remember correctly, I made it either in like 2018 to 2019, and it was just talking about like nerd news for season 1. And that was about it. It really wasn't that memorable in season 1, and I think anyone who listened to it could agree. Season 2 is when the things started to look up, and then halfway through season 2, believe, I had a co-star with me to join in on Trenton Talks. And I'll get to the thing with that after the fact. And that said co-star joined me for the first half of season 3, and then there was an episode where that co-star couldn't make it, and then I had my friend Michaela fill in for her, and that's when things started to go downhill for OG Trenton Talks, because I got a few angry DMs from the original co-star, even though I told her in advance that I was going to replace her on the next episode because she couldn't make it. She still gave me some angry words, and then very later on, due to other reasons that aren't relevant to the topic at hand, so I'm not going to bring them up, we had a falling out. And then me and that said co-star, I canceled Trenton Talks, made a public statement on it on Twitlonger why the ending, and now here we are. The new version of Trenton Talks, which I feel like I'm having a little bit more fun with. And honestly, I don't think would I wish that things changed how they did? No, because I learned a whole new part of myself and a whole new lesson that I'm not gonna get into. Besides the fact, you gotta be careful who you trust out in these streets. And honestly, I prefer this version a lot more because it's just more casual. It's a lot more chill. It's more like something you drink with your morning tea or your morning coffee, and you would like watch, kind of take in for the moment, and then just come out feeling like, okay, this was a nice start to my day. And he's the one that not many people know of. It was only one episode. It was another audio-only based podcast, and I wanted to kind of keep doing it. But someone who appears in my live streams all the time, Ratcliffe, gave me this idea to do TG Looks at Wikipedia, and it basically came around because I believe, if I remember correctly, and he can correct me on this in the comments if he needs to, I was talking about, he was talking about, a Wikipedia article about Mike the Headless Chicken. And I was like, okay, there's so many weird Wikipedia articles out there, why don't I read them? So I read one and released one episode, and I very quickly realized how unentertained I was after just recording one episode. I'm like, yeah, this cannot turn into a series. So, unlike OG Trenton Talks, TG Looks at Wikipedia, I believe, is still out there on all audio platforms. There's only one episode, and it's about Mike the Headless Chicken. Yeah, you can go ahead and find that. And then, here's the big one. Here's where I feel like I was the happiest doing anything podcast related. Besides the new Trenton Talks that you're seeing now. Although I don't know if you could consider this a podcast. That's why there's an asterisk on this. But Artificial the podcast or artificial podcast um, was a great. It was a great joint venture between me, Jackson, Jordan, and Chandler, and I'm pretty sure at least some of you guys who are listening to this have seen at least a few episodes of Artificial. But basically, it was more the vibe of OG Trenton Talks, except with three co-members. We would talk about like nerd news, and then we would just derail horribly quickly. That to a point where topic lists weren't usually like our main concern with the thing. It's more like a secondary part. But I'm gonna talk about the 3 seasons of Artificial Podcast, and I'm gonna break them down one by one. Yeah, season 1 I'd say is my second favorite season to do, because season 1 of any show or anything is kind of like just trying to get the hang of it, and it was honestly a pretty good learning venture for me in terms of like audio balance and video editing and things like that. And like every single time I recorded a season 1 episode, for the most part, there were a few stinkers, I'll be honest. I was genuinely having fun. We were all just goofing off, having a good time. And then season 2, I feel like season 2 is kind of when we elevated Artificial. And honestly, season 2 is my favorite season of Artificial of all time, because we started doing things that weren't podcast like. We started playing games. We started playing games. We were having we had a brief live show, very brief, very very brief live show, but it was a live show. um, and it was just, and then we had the Christmas special, which was just us goofing off in Jackbox, Uno, and things like that. Um, and then Season 2 was good too, because we had Chelsea Rose, which was a radio host, a local radio host of ours, and that episode I remember just getting clowned on for my food takes. But it was all in good fun. We all had a good time every time we recorded season 2, or at least I had that understanding. And then season 3 happened, and I don't know if it was just me who was feeling it, and maybe it was just me. I don't know. But I started feeling burnt out of the podcast, and I feel like we kind of stretched the podcast to our limits, and that's why we created Artificial the show. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for listening to this Trenton Talks. Yeah, I will. I appreciate all of you for listening to this, and yeah, see you guys later.